Autobiographical memory is notoriously unstable. Although people typically remember well the gist of an important life event as time passes, they often misremember the details. Factual errors in autobiographical recollection increase substantially as the temporal distance from the to-be-remembered event increases. For example, research indicates that accuracy in recollections of how people heard the news of the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks in New York City decreased substantially over an 8-month period. Research on the personal recollections of dramatic historical events suggests that despite people's beliefs to the contrary, accuracy for memories of the John F. Kennedy assassination or the 9/11 attacks may be no greater than for memories of any other events in life. The temporal instability of autobiographical memory, therefore, contributes to change in the life story over time. But many other processes are also at play, and many of these reflect changes in how the person comes to terms with the social world. Most obviously, people accumulate new experiences over time, some of which may prove to be so important as to make their way into narrative identity. Furthermore, as people's motivations, goals, personal concerns, and social positions change, their memories of important events in their lives and the meanings they attribute to those events may also change. When we look closely at a human face, we are aware of many expressive details. The lines of the forehead, the wildness of the eyes, the curve of the lips, or jut of the chin. These elements combine to present us with a total facial expression which we use to interpret the mood of our companion. But we all know that people can put on a happy face or deliberately adopt a sad face without feeling either happy or sad. Faces can lie, and sometimes can lie so well that it becomes hard to read the true emotions of their owners. But there is at least one facial signal that cannot easily be put on. It is a small signal and rather a subtle one, but because it tells the truth, it is of special interest. It comes from the pupils and has to do with their size, not only in relation to the amount of light that is falling upon them. The human pupils appear as two black spots at the centers of the colored irises, and it is common knowledge that these spots are openings that vary in width as the light changes. In bright sunlight, they narrow to pinhead size, about 2 millimeters across, and as dusk falls, they widen to perhaps 4 times their sunlit diameter. But it is not only light that affects the pupils. They are also affected by emotional changes. And it is because emotional changes can noticeably alter pupil size when the light remains constant that pupil size change operates as a mood signal. If we see something that excites us, whether with pleasurable anticipation or with fear, our pupils expand more than usual for the existing light conditions. If we see something mildly distasteful, they contract more than they should in the existing light conditions. These changes normally occur without our knowledge, and, since they are also largely beyond our control, they form an invaluable guide to our true feelings. The earliest civilization we know was of the Federation of Cities of Sumer in Mesopotamia, in the area which now comprises southern Iraq. By 3000 BCE, there were 12 cities in this area, each supported by produce grown by peasants in the surrounding countryside. Theirs was subsistence-level living. Each village had to bring its entire crop to the city it served. Officials allocated a portion to feed the local peasants, and the rest was stored for the aristocracy in the city temples. In this way, a few great families, with the help of a class of retainers, bureaucrats, soldiers, merchants, and household servants, appropriated between half and 2/3 of the revenue. They used this surplus to live a different sort of life altogether, freed for various pursuits that depend on leisure and wealth. In return, they maintained the irrigation system and preserved a degree of law and order. All pre-modern states feared anarchy. A single crop failure caused by drought or social unrest could lead to thousands of deaths, so the elite could justify themselves in the belief that this system benefited the population as a whole. But robbed of the fruits of their labors, the peasants were little better than slaves, plowing, harvesting, digging irrigation canals, being forced into degradation and poverty, their hard labor in the fields draining their lifeblood. If they failed to satisfy their overseers, their oxen were kneecapped and their olive trees chopped down. They left fragmentary records of their distress. The poor man is better dead than alive, one peasant lamented. I am a thoroughbred steed, complained another, but I am hitched to a mule and must draw a cart and carry weeds and stubble. Sumer had devised a system of structural violence that would prevail in every single agrarian state until the modern period, when agriculture ceased to be the economic basis of civilization. Its rigid hierarchy was symbolized by the ziggurats, the giant step temple towers that were hallmark of Mesopotamian civilization. Sumerian society too was stacked in narrowing layers of culminating in an exalted aristocratic pinnacle, each individual locked inexorably into place. Yet, historians argue, without this cruel arrangement that did violence to the vast majority of the population, humans would not have developed the arts and sciences that made progress possible. Civilization itself required a leisured class to cultivate it, and so our finest achievements were for thousands of years built on the backs of an exploited peasantry. By no coincidence, when the Sumerians invented writing, it was for the purpose of social control. Had their surplus not been taken from the peasants, there would have been no economic resources to support the technicians, scientists, inventors, artists, and philosophers who eventually brought our modern civilization into being. As the American monk Thomas Merton pointed out, all of us who have benefited from this systematic violence are implicated in the suffering inflicted for over 5,000 years on the vast majority of men and women. Or, as the philosopher Walter Benjamin put it, there is no document of civilization that is not at the same time with a document of barbarism.